Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a focused look at Solana, SOL, specifically where it stands around May 10th, 2025.
Yep, we've got a speculative analysis here. It's concise, but quite expanded, actually.
And our aim is simple. Pull out the core insights for you. Get you up to speed quickly but thoroughly. So let's start big picture. What's influencing SOL?
Well, the first thing really is how much the wider economy plays into it. You know, inflation, what the U.S. Fed is doing with rates.
Right, the usual suspects.
Exactly. So, like, if the Fed eases up, cuts rates maybe, that could make investors more willing to jump into riskier assets.
Like crypto, like Solana.
Precisely. And some forecasts see SOL potentially hitting $306 up to maybe $515 in that scenario.
Wow, okay. But if they keep things tight.
Okay, so the macro scene is definitely key. And then there's Bitcoin, right? I heard the correlation is pretty tight.
Oh, extremely tight. The number here is 0.934. That means they basically move together. So if Bitcoin rallies, say it hits that hypothetical $97,000 mark.
Then based on that correlation, you could see Solana push towards maybe $290, even $450. It really tends to follow Bitcoin's lead.
Interesting. Okay. What about catalysts more specific to Solana? I keep hearing about a potential ETF.
Yeah, that's a huge topic. The analysis we have puts the odds at like 90% for approval sometime in 2025.
90%? That sounds like a big deal.
It could be massive. An ETF just makes it way easier for big money institutional investors to buy in. Could really drive up demand.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. Regulation, especially around DeFi and stablecoins. There's, what, $13.1 billion tied up in stablecoins on Solana?
That's a lot. So regulatory crackdowns could.
Could definitely create some short-term nervousness. Might even see the price test that 143 threshold support level if bad news hits. It's this balance, you know, big potential inflow versus regulatory question marks.
Got it. So potential bumps in the road. But moving to the tech itself, Solana's fundamentals seem strong.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at DeFi. Solana's weekly revenue is crushing Ethereum's by over 500%. That shows real use, real demand.
People are actually using the network.
For sure. And you see projects like Superstate tokenizing equities on Solana. That adds real-world utility, and that's the kind of thing underpinning some of those really high-price predictions. Some go up to $1,000.
$1,000. Okay. But we have to talk about the network stability issues, the outages they've had.
You do, yeah. That's definitely a risk factor. If those past outages linger in people's minds, or if more happen, it erodes trust.
And could knock the price down.
The analysis suggests maybe back towards $110, $130 if confidence takes a hit.
Okay. What are the technicals saying right now?
Well, technically, SOL is trading above its 50-day moving average, which is generally seen as positive, a bullish sign.
But, I sense another but.
The RSI, the Relative Strength Index, it's at 74.65. That's generally considered overbought territory.
Meaning it might be due for a breather? A pullback?
Exactly. Could suggest a cooling off period, maybe down towards the $166, $168 levels in the near term. Key resistance to watch is around $176, $187.
If it breaks through that.
Then you start looking towards those higher targets again, the $290, maybe even $515 range. And the floor, the key support, seems to be around $143.44.
And are big investors, the so-called whales, showing confidence?
We are seeing some significant moves, yeah, like DeFi Development Corp buying a large chunk, SOL Strategies putting in $20 million. Yeah. That signals belief.
Okay, so some conviction there.
But you know, the risk with whales is always that they could dump large amounts too, causing volatility. It's a double-edged sword. But overall, Solana's a major player, $82.96 billion market cap, about 3% of the whole crypto market.
Right. Now, thinking even bigger globally, how does Solana fit into where things are heading with Web3 and all that?
It fits really well, actually. Solana is built for speed and low costs. We're talking fractions of a cent per transaction, right?
Yeah, incredibly cheap.
So for DeFi, for NFTs, for anything that needs high throughput without breaking the bank, it's a natural choice. If it gets more traction, more partnerships, maybe in emerging markets.
That could push the price.
Could definitely help it climb towards that $400 mark mentioned in some analyses. Plus, it's relatively energy efficient, which ticks the ESG box for some investors.
Good point. But are there wider crypto risks?
Always. You know, another major scandal like FTX, that kind of thing can sour sentiment across the board, not just for one coin.
And drag Solana down with it.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe towards that $120 level if the mood really darkens. It's all interconnected.
Okay, so summing it all up, if you had to give a speculative outlook, what are the main scenarios?
Well, the bullish dream scenario involves that ETF getting approved, the ecosystem continuing to boom, and Bitcoin leading a market charge. That could potentially lift SOL into the $306 to, yes, even $1,000 range by late 2025.
Ambitious. And the bearish view.
That's where regulatory pressures bite hard, maybe network issues resurface, or the whole market just corrects sharply. That could pull Solana down to maybe $9,430.
And the middle ground. The base case.
The analysis seems to point towards a range of roughly $150 to $344 by year end, kind of balancing the current momentum with all those risks we talked about. Near term, maybe look for that $168-$200 zone.
Okay, lots of moving parts. Well, this has been a really useful, concentrated look at the speculative picture for Solana right now.
Trying to cut through the noise a bit.
Absolutely. So for our final thought today, directed at you listening, considering everything we've touched on, the economy, tech, regulation, market sentiment, what single factor do you think will be the most decisive for Solana's price in the next few months? Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us.